week I give someone a lift and we have a talk. And as you know, one of the sort of background things about Carpool is that I only ever use either hybrid or electric vehicles to do these programs in. And because of my interest in that area, I managed to get in touch with the person who's on the show today. Now, some of you will have seen a movie that was in the cinemas called Who Killed the Electric Car? It was narrated by Martin Sheen, and it followed a very interesting story. And one of the people that it focused on was a woman who used to work for General Motors when they were producing electric vehicles, namely the EV1, the vehicle that they made that was highly efficient, very, very easy to run, very, very popular car, and the car which General Motors then withdrew, taking back all the cars, because they wouldn't sell them, they'd only lease them. They took back all the cars from the people who loved them and wanted to keep them, including people like Tom Hanks. So, you know, lots of different people had them. Took them back and crushed them and destroyed all of them. And the movie is sort of about that story. And what GM replaced this, what really rather marvellous electric vehicle with, was the Hummer. How extraordinary is that? And so I was very pleased when I managed to get in touch with a woman who appears in the film and pick her up in a big hybrid car in Los Angeles and go for a quick spin to have a quick natter about electric cars, because if you think I know a lot about electric cars, you wait till you see her. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome into the passenger seat, Chelsea Sexton.
In 1996, electric cars began to appear on roads all over California. They were quiet and fast, produced no exhaust, and ran without gasoline. 10 years later, these futuristic cars were almost entirely gone.
We're now, EV, see, we're electric in a 3-ton truck.
This thing's way bigger than I would normally drive.
It is quite a big vehicle, but I mean, I had to say, it's very comfortable. And I mean, it probably does.
Yes, if you need to drive your living room, it's fantastic.
Yeah. So, Chelsea Sexton.
Yes.
You were in a film, what I watched, called Who Killed the Electric Car? I mean, it came out in cinemas in the UK. It was on in the cinema. It had a DVD release.
Yes.
I think it's been on the TV.
It has done that too. But
yeah.
But we came out 2 weeks after Inconvenient Truth, which means that about 4 people saw it in the theaters.
Oh, really? It didn't do well in the theaters here?
No. In fairness, it actually did break even, and we all thought we'd burn copies for our parents and move on. So we've been thrilled from day one. But it actually has done really well on DVD.
Right.
And really grown there, and it's on YouTube, and it's on all this.
Right. So it is getting out. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, that's good.
Yeah. So now we're doing the college circuit. It's been quite a ride. So much so that we're making another one.
Right. So, but then, because the kind of backstory of how you got involved in it. But so, were you involved in automobiles before?
I actually started working for General Motors when I was 17.
Right.
Because of a pathologically stubborn streak that dictated I pay my own way through college.
Right.
So I thought that would be a good job to do it.
Yeah.
And didn't care about cars at all when I started working with them.
Right. So you weren't, as a kid, you weren't interested in them. It wasn't.
Couldn't care less.
Right.
And a few years into the job, EV1 came out.
Right.
And I started working on that project and got so completely sucked in. It sort of called to my inner geek, and I've been in it ever since. Turn left at the light.
And for people who haven't seen Who Killed the Electric Car and see it, buy the DVD. So it's only left here, sorry. Yeah. The EV1 was a mass-manufactured, sensible saloon car that ran on electricity, made by General Motors for.
Well, it was a 2-seat sports coupe, so I doubt that most people think of it as a saloon.
Oh, right, because I've never seen one in real life. So but it's sort of
that.
It looked sort of like a smallish. It's a saloon car to me. It didn't really look like, but in the sense that the Tesla looks like a sports car. Right. The EV1 looked like a sort of, compact.
It was a compact little 2-seat car. Yeah, completely the most aerodynamic production car ever made.
Right.
So it was very sort of teardrop and sleek. And looked futuristic all the time. And it was cool, it was fast, it was fun. I could take a Viper in it. I mean, it really kind of dispelled the golf cart myth.
Right, so it was fast off the line.
Oh my God, yeah, right. Absolutely. In fact, it rivals the early Teslas off the line.
You're kidding?
That fast, yeah.
Wow.
So we had a blast in that car. And it was one of a generation of electric cars that were put out by car companies due to a law in California that said you have to.
Right.
And they all sort of maliciously complied, and they put the cars out there, but were shocked as hell when anybody actually wanted them.
Right.
And let alone, we had a waiting list.
Yeah.
So at some point they started taking the cars back and destroying them. And we couldn't get anyone to come near the story. So we finally decided to make a little movie. And just for the sake that we had to not let it go by unnoticed.
Yeah.
And a few years later, it got into Sundance, and Sony bought it, and
Right.
the rest is history.
It's all history. And I mean, but then you, up to that point, then you were working for you were an employee of General Motors.
Yeah, I had worked for GM for about 9 years. I left in end of 2001 when they shut down the EV1 program.
Oh, right, that was it. You left then anyway. I mean, that was it. Right.
Well, they laid off a lot of people involved in the program, so. But I continued to kind of root for them and then work independently, still with electric cars.
Yeah.
So I've done this half my life now.
Right.
Quite literally. So you can see all the oil tankers out there.
Yes.
Bringing oil to the ship.
And what, this is a big.
This is a electrical generation.
Electric generation. Wow, it's because it's not this. I love this because people in the United Kingdom, LA is Hollywood and maybe Santa Monica.
Yeah.
And then, but I always knew. This bit here,
There is, but it's the cutest little town. It's nestled between
huge
oil
industrial
refinery
things
and electric generation. So I get both sides. I think it's a little bit of irony to what I do.
Yeah, because one of the things I'm trying to do is kind of explain to the petrol-adoring / addicted general public why there might be a viable alternative and not to believe the really sort of colossal amounts of disinformation that are put out all the time.
There is a lot of it. Well, the cool thing about electric cars is they can be any kind of regular car. So you could have an electric SUV, you can have an electric sports car. In fact, to date, we've actually sold more electric SUVs and pickup trucks than any other kind of electric car in the U.S.
Wow.
And people never think of that, but because there were electric RAV4s and electric Ford Rangers and S10s, we had the big stuff too.
Right.
But the neat thing about them is they're incredibly cheap to drive.
Yeah.
Electricity is about a fourth the cost of gasoline or less, depending on the price of gas at the time. For you guys, it would be probably a tenth the price.
It's a staggering difference.
And even here, it's a big economic difference. And they're incredibly clean. There's not even a tailpipe on an electric car. You have to pay attention to where you get your electricity from, but even if it's coming from oil or coal, it's still cleaner than if you put that same fuel in a gas car.
Right. But also you have the choice as well, don't you?
You have the choice. And then, you can turn around and buy green power or put solar panels on your roof or any of that. And the grid gets cleaner over time as well. So one of the things we have to try to teach people is that from an emissions perspective, the dirtiest day their electric car will ever have is the day they bring it home.
Right.
It can only ever get cleaner after
I see.
that.
So the manufacturing process is the same for any vehicle. But,
right.
But once that's done...
Right, and the electricity generation gets cleaner over time, so your car can only get cleaner, whereas a petrol car can only get dirtier.
It can't do
so
anything.
It's an interesting paradigm shift for consumers.
Yeah.
And then the other neat thing is that AC motors have a tremendous amount of torque, which is probably the thing I appreciate the most about them.
Right.
I do like torque and horsepower more than most guys. So.
Well, that's interesting. I think that's very interesting that you actually like performance cars that will accelerate and go fast.
And I'm a gearhead. I appreciate gas performance cars.
Yeah.
But if I could have the same performance in electric, why not?
Yeah.
So AC motors have way more torque than any gas car, which means that you can have all of the performance that all the gearheads want as well.
Yeah.
So there's not a lot of compromise when you're driving a plug-in car. And that's the kind of thing that it's just a matter of consumer education.
Yes.
Because automakers expect that people will ask for electric cars, and if they don't ask for them, they must not want them. But consumers, by and large, don't know they're possible.
Yes.
It's like, if Apple had expected everyone to look at the Walkman and ask for an iPod, you just wouldn't have thought of it.
Yeah.
So it's the same kind of deal.
Yeah.
And we spend a lot of time trying to get people to ask for the iPod.
Right. Yes. Why not use the iPod? You don't need all that tape.
Right.
And there's a Hummer. See, that's a very appropriate vehicle.
We got a few of those in LA as
Again, made by General Motors.
For now.
Yeah. Well, yes, they were once. Yes. Of course, he may have converted it to electric or hydrogen. I don't know.
Oh, yeah. It's Arnold and it's hydrogen.
Yeah. No, from the sound of it, I don't think that one is.
And it's from Texas, no less. Well, that makes some more sense.
Oh, is it? That's a Texas plate on it? Right.
Yeah.
But now, because the two, when I've put my head above the parapet and discussed or suggested that, electric cars might be an alternative solution. The levels of hostility you receive.
Right,
because I didn't know there was I just thought, this looks quite good. It was quite innocent, like going, it's much better, it's really fast. And it just causes so much. People get really angry about it.
Yes.
People who drive petrol cars, and they're convinced that it's some kind of conspiracy theory and con that I can't quite work out who would be bothered to do it.
Yes.
That they're going to be forced at gunpoint out of their petrol cars and into horrible, ugly electric ones. And
yes,
that it is a very interesting kind of. I don't know what I don't understand the psychology, which I'm sure you've experienced more than I have.
Well, yeah, we do run into it occasionally. By and large, people sort of love the idea of, wait, I can have my cake and eat it too. I mean, once they sort of learn about it, and truly once they experience it, we love to put people in cars and make them drive them, because then they become sort of instantly convinced, wow, this is really not that different. Yeah. It has all these benefits. But we do get some people who follow the Hummer. Who do get kind of bitter about it.
Yeah.
And just recently, Rush Limbaugh, who's incredibly conservative, incredibly well-known radio host here, started ranting about electric cars, calling them unpatriotic.
Wow.
Because we'd all be forced to drive these vehicles that have some sort of range limitation, and we wouldn't have the freedom to go the road we're used to. And yet, sending money to foreign countries that don't like us for oil and being dependent on it, that's the patriotic side.
Yeah, and well, I mean, for America as a country to send overseas, I know, hundreds of billions of dollars a year.
Yeah.
Whereas that money could actually benefit the American economy, because you'd generate power with it, you'd build infrastructure with it, there'd be jobs.
Yes, exactly.
Is that unpatriotic?
Right.
It is, well, because it's the same with us. I found out just before I came out that it's £17 billion a month leaves the shores of the United Kingdom to pay for fossil fuel. £17 billion a month. Because I was saying, I bet it's £10 billion a year, having no idea what it really is. I mean, I was pathetically.
And we're about $1 billion a day.
Yeah. $1 billion a day, and that is. There's no other way of describing it. That is leaving the American economy.
Yes. Oh, absolutely.
That is going overseas, and it's not all. I mean, I think because it is a dangerous road to go down, and all that money is going to terrorists. Not really. It's going to lots of lovely people who are really nice. But I mean, and it's affecting their economies and their societies and the stability of the region. And we all know, all those arguments. I mean, and it doesn't. It would be a huge change to. It's because I see it as a political argument, a social and political argument, really, rather and economic one.
Yes.
Rather than an environmental one. I mean, I think it's the sort of green lobby who. That those people, I'm sick and tired of being told I've got to wear sandals and eat tofu.
Sure.
Well, who's ever said, the Clarkson reaction? Who's ever told Jeremy Clarkson to wear sandals and eat tofu? I mean, it would be funny.
I'm not sure I'd want to see Jeremy Clarkson in sandals.
I want to.
I'm just saying.
I want to see him in shorts and sandals and eating a tofu salad. But then it's great that you're a fan of Top Gear. Who did the best hatchet job they possibly could on the Tesla, which is quite
Well, it started out really good, and we all started out excited, but yes, the whole contrived thing about the car dying and all of that was a little over the top.
Yeah.
And really just not going to kind of go off to the right.
I go off to the right, do I?
Yes, follow the silver Mercedes.
Right.
I mean, it's not that helpful for the technology or the movement, even though it makes good television. So. Yeah,
it was all clean fun, but the thing that I expected that. I wasn't surprised
when neither.
But the thing that upset me was the comparison, the kind of subtle comparison with the hydrogen car, the Clarity.
Of course they love the
which
Clarity,
they love, and this is so sensible.
The future, it's tough because there are a variety of alternatives.
Yeah.
But we do have to have honest conversations about the benefits and costs of each one.
Yes.
So to portray electric cars as having all these limitations and not speak of the fact that hydrogen has all of the same limitations and then some.
And some,
is a little bit disingenuous.
Yes.
The Clarity is a beautiful car.
Yeah, I think it's a genius bit of engineering.
If you put a damn battery in it and a plug, I'd buy one tomorrow.
That's well said.
And it would be 20th of the cost.
But I'm sure that in time, fuel cell technology will find its place. It might be in trains or big trucks or power station or something. It's not like I think the technology is genius that you put hydrogen in something that creates electricity. Really useful. But I don't think it's ever going to be in a small vehicle.
I don't think so either. I mean, there is some potential, especially for stationary applications.
Yeah.
Perhaps the really large vehicles, at least until battery technology gets cheaper. But in passenger cars, it just makes no sense.
Yeah. Now, you've just driven did you have a drive? Or seen the new GM? The Volt.
No, I did get to drive it.
You got to drive it?
Well, I have this sort of standing rule that I don't get on a plane unless I get to drive the car when I get there.
Very good. Very sensible.
It's served me well over the years.
Yeah.
So I have been nagging them to drive the Volt for a couple of years now, ever since they announced it. Because on one hand, given the fact that we tend to be optimists, even though we're not naive, and I do have a certain fondness for GM, and I kind of have that I know what you could do when you want to aspect. So when they unveiled the Volt, you know, we all want to believe, but we're all still a little cautious
Yes.
too because of the history and sort of fool me once, shame on you, but fool me twice.
Yes.
So I've been grilling them for 2 years, and a lot of my old friend engineers and stuff are working on the Volt, and that kind of gives me some level of...
So you know some of the team who've been developing it.
I know a bunch of the team, yeah. And I've gotten to know the new guys too, but still there's nothing like driving it and saying, okay, this is real.
Yeah.
So yeah, I finally did go back a couple days ago, and I spent a good long time in the car, and I drove it, you know, all over the Milford Proving Grounds, which is sort of Disneyland for car heads anyway. It's got filled with all this like porn for people like me. It's basically what it is.
A huge car porn theme park.
Completely. I mean, there's all these cool cars running around on all these different kinds of tracks. So they sort of handed the keys over and said, "Here you go."
Wow.
It's a good little car.
Is it? Right.
It really is.
I mean, in terms of the comparison, I mean, compared to a kind of common, I don't know what size it is. I mean, is that a 4-seat?
That is a 4-seat
sedan, right?
That is what that is. Yeah, and it's right now they're driving mules basically. So it's the right propulsion system, but in a Chevy Cruze body instead of.
Oh, I see. It's not got the body that. Right, I see.
But mules are known for being fairly rough, and that car is more refined today than many production cars I've driven.
Right.
So they're being extremely careful, and you know, it was interesting. It was both reassuring and a little bit of relief. Like, okay, I knew you could do this, but now it's clear that you know it too. And it also kind of made me impatient. Right. Because like, you know, this is good enough today. Just call it done, and just put one in my driveway already. Yeah. But no, they are, you know, perfectionists about it.
And when is that released?
End of next year.
Right. So it's still a way away.
It's still a way away.
I mean, it sounds like next year is going to be a very big year for. There's so many.
Here's hoping. My God.
It's about time. So, and where are you heading to today then?
Today I'm getting on a plane for New York.
Right.
I'm going to go meet with the senator tomorrow.
Wow.
We're going to talk energy policy.
Wow. Wow.
I make waves and cause trouble with all kinds of things. And then I'll be home tomorrow night and...
Oh really? You're going to New York for the day?
I am,
effectively.
yes.
Wow. So you'll stay overnight but then fly back.
My carbon footprint, it sucks. I have to put another 1 million electric cars on the road just to make up for my own air travel. It's awful. Yeah, Detroit yesterday, New York tomorrow.
So, and is that to do with the film? Are you shooting now?
No, Detroit was for the film. We did actually shoot for the sequel there, but tomorrow's just a meeting. I spend a lot of time sort of conspiring. How I refer.
So would you be referred to as an advocate or a lobbyist?
That's the easiest way, and not a lobbyist so much, but the easiest way is as an advocate because I wear a lot of hats, and so I spend a lot of time with car companies, sort of advising them and helping them get back into this, and as they decide they want to, it's really helpful to be able to call upon a few folks who've been there and done it before. And then I also spend a lot of time with policymakers because they're all trying to figure out how to create good energy policy, how to incentivize these technologies, how should it be structured, what are the pitfalls, and then I do a lot of consumer education and speaking, and you know, I work with a venture capital firm. I mean, I've carved out this really cool little place where I get
it's fantastic.
conspire with all kinds of people.
To evilly overthrow the freedom-loving, petrol-driving masses who are just...
You know, if that's a side effect, I'll have to live with it.
Because basically, it's all those people who've messaged me and twittered me and emailed me about how I'm stealing their freedom. It's your fault.
Well, I know, and I'm on Twitter too, so God, I hear it. No, we get our share of death threats. It's fun times.
No, you haven't seriously had actual death threats.
Oh, absolutely.
No.
Oh, sure.
Wow, that is really... Why, though? I mean, what have you done?
You want to turn right at the light?
Okay. I mean, I don't... You know, I can understand people getting upset and saying, you know, you're full of shit, and I want to drive my Mustang.
I get that, too.
But to go... But, I mean, that... You know, to go from that to
you should die?
You should die because you've suggested that driving a petrol engine isn't the best thing in the whole universe ever.
Yeah.
That is quite worrying.
Yeah, but I don't have a very active sense of fear.
Right. Oh, well done. I think I probably have an overactive one. So yeah.
Sometimes my family probably wishes I had more of one.
Yes.
But
Wow.
But no, I mean, I think you have to call it like you see it.
Yes. No. Absolutely.
I've become known for my candor over the years. It was an unexpected but a very interesting takeaway because what we found out was you didn't have to have the perfect car that would go 300 miles and refuel in 5 minutes and do all of those things. They just had to, you know, get you through your normal day, and recharging ability had to be available. That was a really interesting lesson for the automakers, and now we have a half a dozen major companies working on pure electric cars, and all of them are in the 100-mile range.
Right.
Which is why Twitter is actually kind of dangerous for me, because it is almost dangerously conducive to my snarky streak. And
yes, that's the problem,
there's not enough
isn't it?
room for diplomacy.
So let's quickly discuss conspiracy theories because I hate them, and I'm not a conspiracy theorist.
Me neither.
Oh, that's good. No, I didn't think you were, but I mean, there is. I mean, I read a book called Internal Combustion
Yes.
which isn't. Edwin Black, and it's sort of a bit of a conspiracy theory.
Well, and you know, there is certainly there are companies that are kind of into the greenwashing thing.
Yeah.
Some are more sincere about the alternatives than others.
Yeah.
You know, BP and Shell both stand on beyond petroleum and looking at alternatives, and you know, depending on who you talk to.
I'm sure, but I mean, in purely economic terms, it makes sense for them to do so. They bloody well should be. So in a sense, you want to encourage that, right? Even if it's a bit cynical.
Well, if you look at the fraction that's actually spent, I mean, it's a rounding error in their budget.
Yes.
But still, there are a lot of conspiracy theorists out there, and we faced this a lot when we made the movie. Because
I'm sure.
And, you know, Michael Moore has made it a little difficult to make documentaries to a certain extent. And so we had this, you know, real sense that we were going up against the two biggest industries in the world, and there were going to be people that would assume we were conspiracy theorists.
Yeah.
And we have one guy in our film who is.
Right.
But we were a little disappointed when Sony put the word conspiracy on the DVD box because it doesn't help our cause.
No.
But at the end of the day, each of those suspects in our film basically just served their own interests. They didn't need to conspire to arrive at that result. And that's kind of the point that... You know, was there conspiracy? I don't know, maybe. I mean, there's certainly some questions in there, but we don't need to have had a conspiracy in order for that result to still be achieved.
Yeah.
Oil companies serve their shareholders.
Yeah.
That's what they're there for.
They're there to
so
make
you
money.
can't blame them for not wholeheartedly embracing electric cars.
Yeah.
It's not their fault.
No.
You know, car companies... Similar thing. I mean, their downfall is that they have been so structured by the quarter instead of long term.
Yes.
That they also serve their shareholders, and while it may have been in their best interest to keep doing electric cars years ago, you know, they made a lot of money off of SUVs at the time, so you can understand why they sold those.
Yeah.
So, you know, we don't need to have had a conspiracy to go there, and we tend to not resonate too well to that kind of thinking.
There was a point a few months ago on the news in Britain of, you know, another bank's gone broke and we've given them £54 billion to dig them out of the hole, and someone else has done that, and this shop's closing with everyone losing their jobs, and these million people, and on the same day BP announced their record ever profits of their entire history from 1902 to the present day.
And same thing with Exxon here.
Yeah. They made so much more money.
I
mean,
know,
it was absolutely blisteringly cruel, the combination, because it was on the same day it was announced.
Right.
And I would imagine even they were going, maybe could have timed that a little bit better.
Yeah, maybe not so much with the announcement.
I think they made £54 billion profit.
Yes.
And in a small country like us, you know, it's not a big place. There's a lot of people there and there's a lot of cars. But are they nodding?
They are nodding.
And so there is oil underneath here still, and they're still pumping it up.
Yes. Some of them are sleeping, but yes, this is the lovely backdrop to...
I'm sure it's been used in a lot of movies, isn't it?
Including ours, yes.
Oh really? You shot some stuff here, did you?
Absolutely, sure.
Wow.
Yeah, most of our film was shot locally.
Right.
It kind of made sense.
Yeah. And so
Randy's Donuts.
The what? Sorry.
Famous Randy's Donuts.
Randy's Donuts. I've never had a Randy's Donut. So I've had In-N-Out burgers.
You're missing
I kind of need an In-N-Out burger, but I haven't had one this trip. I love those, but I hadn't had a Randy's Donut. We're going to drop you off. Head straight for Randy's.
I should say this, by the way, I'm a horrendously nervous driver.
Right, sorry.
So I'll just keep checking for you. You're alright, Robert, you're alright. Watch the pedestrian. I've got a hyacinth bouquet in the front. Richard! No! Cab! Yeah, so